Hello, my name is Joe Bakhmutsky, and I want to welcome you to Power to Be Happy, where we talk about the necessity of healing from trauma and living a happier, more fulfilled life. Today, I have the honor of talking to Richard Hall, who is a counseling psychologist here in Melbourne, who helps people through counseling and psychodrama. And today, we're going to dive deep into psychodrama, some of the unique ways that it can help us to really see ourselves in a different light and also explore new ways and new possibilities to finding your own way to move forward, to live the life that you want, despite difficult experiences that you might have had. So, Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Richard, let's start at the top. I want to ask you, you've seen trauma in your practice. How would you define it given everything that you know today?
Well, I think what I think trauma does is I think it takes us away from our authentic self. So when people have a traumatic experience, or there's trauma in the family system, or it's generational trauma, it stops people from being or becoming who they're meant to be. So we're in the field of actually wanting to develop adult human beings. We want people to become adult. And what it does is it cuts across, in some ways, it cuts across the developmental areas that people usually go through in terms of, infancy, childhood, adolescence, and then into adulthood. And as we know, particularly with, say, men, that the brain develops, and it's only about 26 or 27 that the cognitive faculty or the brain is fully developed. And I think it's probably a little bit earlier for women. So when you have a traumatic event, how do you sort of work through that process of dealing with it so you can continue on your developmental path? So, and really, the fact is that you want to come to the truth of the matter. So no matter how terrible the truth is, when people get to know what the truth of the matter is, they can come to grips with it rather than fantasizing about what it is. So people tell their stories, and so their stories have to be heard. And the stories are very, very important, because then you can sort of take stock and move on. But unfortunately, people get stuck, and they need a sort of an empathic ear of someone who is well trained to help them do that. So, for example, the most important thing is the relationship. So when you sent your email to me, I sort of didn't warm up very much to it. And then I started reading it again. And then I, realized what you'd been doing. And then I warmed up to you. And I was very interested in you, Joe. I thought, I quite like this guy. So there was a sort of a natural, as we'd call it, taily, or the positive feeling that I have towards you before I meet you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you had sort of heard a few things about me, and then you got interested in me. So that ability to develop a positive taili or connection with the other is a foundation thing if someone's going to sort of work through trauma with somebody else. Because in the end, like some people who've had traumatic situations, they won't want to connect up with people. They'll be quite suspicious of people. Who is this person they're dealing with? So the healthiest script is sort of I'm okay, you're okay. That I'm okay and you're okay. And then all the different aspects of that need to be sort of assisted so that eventually you can get to that point. Anyway, but I think that area of trauma, how do we process it, and how do we sort of work through it, and becomes much more complicated when you're dealing with people who have come from families that are not very healthy. So if you've had a very good mum and dad, you're very lucky.
Yes, 100%, Richard. It's so having the right environment around you that is nurturing and supportive, that's often difficult to find for so many of us. So I'm really glad that you brought it up, and you touched on so many important points. You talked about trust and how sometimes it's so difficult to trust in people again, but also trust in yourself, right? Because we lose that, or maybe not even ever build up that belief in who we are. And I think sometimes this really gets in the way of building those connections, or even making that step towards seeking therapy, towards seeking support, towards getting help. And I think it's so vital, Richard, to really have that belief in the possibility of healing, of not thinking that, I'm broken, nothing is going to change. How do we give that hope to someone who might be going through a challenging time?
Well, I think there's a number of things that you've raised, but I think if you meet a person who's themselves, and that they've done the work and they become themselves, they will call forth that impulse in the other. And one of my teachers called it the sleeping giant, that actually the self or the selfhood can be awakened in the other by someone who's very stable and is compassionate and able to be with them. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people I've seen, a lot of homeless people I've seen, and a lot of people who have been very traumatic, I usually say to them, look, you trust me as much as I earn. And they like that, because usually a lot of homeless people are highly intelligent people who have been traumatized, and they like that, that actually don't trust me because of my title, or don't trust me because you've come to my office. But trust me, watch experience. And so in the very early parts of me seeing someone, I'm wanting people to trust their experience, watch your experience. And because what we're trying to do, we're trying to give people a corrective emotional experience. And the corrective emotional experience is that actually they speak and there's someone there that listens and is empathic to them, which is very like you've got a mum who listens to the little girl or little boy who comes to mummy and they've hurt their knee, and they come to mummy and mummy embraces them and say, what's happened? And the little child cries and mummy's with them, and then they wipe their eyes and off they go out into the world. So that idea that they go out into the world, and when the world's not so safe, they come back to mummy and daddy, and they come back and they put their arms around them and they sort of take care of them, and then when they're settled again, out they go again. So that beautiful idea of in and out, that sort of thing, and I think that's and I mean what Dr. Marino, who developed psychodrama, suggested was that you have your social atom. So you have original family system, and in therapy or in group therapy, which psychodrama is, sometimes we revisit that family. We revisit that family system. And then Marino had this idea that you've got a social atom. And he said, your social atom is the relationship networks that you have. And you could write them down. What was your social atom like at 7? What was it like at 14? What's it like at 21? What's it like now? And that social atom is the relationship networks. And very quickly you can see whether somebody is very, very isolated in their social atom, or whether it's populated with a lot of people. And of course, what happens during life, people move out of your social atom, and then you got to repopulate it again. Yeah. So that's the thing that's dropped off. People aren't repopulating their social atom. People are very isolated because, mum and dad are working. They're trying to pay the mortgage off. Life is very, very busy, and some of the things that have worked in sort of our neighbourhoods and in our sort of local areas are sort of we're not using those sort of things like we have before. So very, very quickly, that social atom is sort of the people that can help you live your life. And in a psychodrama, if I sort of can explain that, is that so in a psychodrama, you'll have a group of people, and they'll be around in a half circle, and we call them the audience. And then we have a space, which is called the stage. And on the stage, we can project, we can put onto the stage a whole lot of things, stories about our lives. So the leader of the group is called the director. And the director will direct somebody that's in the group to tell a story. And usually the story is related to everybody else in the group. And so they're called the protagonist. So there's the protagonist, and then there's the director who's going to assist them to do their drama. Now, very quickly, the director is the champion for the protagonist. So suddenly, like that mother-child relationship, here they are, they've got a person who's their champion. And so very quickly, we call that's going to help repair the maybe the broken relationships from the past. And then the person will go about working out a purpose for the drama. And so they're interviewed to do a piece of work. And what happens then, eventually, once you've actually worked out what the actually particular drama is, the person will create a scene on the stage. And in the scene on the stage, so it might be, look, I remember this scene of my family at the dining room table. Okay, all right, let's set up that scene. Let's set up the dining room table. And let's put the people in the scene. So set up the physical aspects of it. And let's set up the dining room table and everybody there. So what happens is the person starts to warm up. So it's not a sort of a memory test, but actually in coming to the scene in the present, they start to warm up to the scene now. And then we populate it. Okay, well, who's here? Oh, well, my 2 brothers are here. Okay, choose someone from the group to be the brothers. So 2 people from the group become the auxiliaries in the drama, and then they sit in the chairs of the brothers. And then, oh, well, mum's here. Choose someone to be mum. Choose someone to be dad. And so suddenly we've got the scene already set. Who starts talking first? My dad. Reverse roles with dad. So the person then becomes the dad, and the director interviews the dad. So gets them to be the dad and gets to understand how the dad ticks. And then once he's warmed up, go ahead, say what you say. And then suddenly we've got this drama in front of us. So the father speaks, reverse roles, and then the protagonist, the person, speaks back, or whatever happens. Now, with trauma, we're not wanting to repeat the traumatic experience. So right at the very, very beginning, when the director is the champion of the protagonist, social atom repair, or the repair of the self, is already taking place, because it's not the same as what happened in the past. We're not going to just repeat the abuse. So why I've gone into all that detail is because that social atom, which happens in a psychodrama group, we want to replicate in life itself. We want people need to develop a social atom that helps them live their life, because we can't do it on our own. And so teaching people to watch experience in the moment, what's this like being here, the ability to teach someone to reflect on, for example, their experience with, say, a counsellor, and what happens is, after that, say, for example, if someone's doing one-to-one counselling and they go away, they're going to reflect and they're going to do work outside the session. And then after that, they come back again. What's your reflections on what's happened? So in some ways, they sort of have surgery in the session, and then they've got to go away, and then they've got to sort of have self-care. They've got to have around them sort of self-care to sort of and reflect on what's happened. So in a way, to be able to create a scene and then to stand back with the director and have a look at the scene is sort of looking from outside it, which to me is a very, very important thing to be able to do. So one of the things we've done in Australia and New Zealand is use role theory as our clinical foundation. The difference between different roles, and roles can be progressive roles and roles can be dysfunctional roles. And so the foundation on the building of a person is to work with the progressive roles. They're the foundation on which to build. Now, sometimes working with someone, I'll teach them about roles so that I can talk to them about, oh, this is the particular role you're in, or this is a particular role they're in. And the challenge will be, can I respond in the moment rather than react? Or can I express myself when I never expressed myself at the time? Mm-hmm. So I build into it that, and to me, Dr. Marino's work, one of the big things that he talked about was, one aspect of spontaneity was warm up. What do I warm up to? And of course, with someone who's traumatized, if they're traumatized, they're in a coping system, they can't warm up to their abilities. So you could sort of think the trauma's in the driver's seat, and all the abilities of the person are in the background being held in trust. And how do you release those abilities, those foundation abilities that somebody's got in them, and so that the trauma can go to the background, and the and the abilities can be released. So the idea is how does this get released? So in talking about the psychodrama method, we're wanting to release spontaneity. We're wanting people to be able to sort of call on their all their abilities that they've got, and not just get stuck in a coping system where they cope by moving away. So you can move away, or you can move towards, or you can move against. And so you get caught in this survival system, which a lot of people with trauma, they've lived their whole life in a survival system. So so anyway, look, it's just, I just find people really interesting, and I'm just getting good at this now, you know.
And so I'm fascinated to hear, and thank you for giving that real overview of what that section, psychodramatic session might look like, and kind of how it's set up and how it works, and different roles that we take on. And I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, then taking on different roles allows you to take on different perspectives and to take on different perspective for yourself today, as opposed to how things might have been before, but also take on perspectives of people who might have been, part of your life, part of that social atom, perhaps. I mean, is that kind of related to this idea of surplus reality, of things that might have never happened?
Well, Moreno's idea was that in the playing of the roles, the self emerges.
Mm-hmm.
So as you see the different roles, and the thing is that in a drama, we bring out a drama of what's happened, and then what actually happens is sometimes you go into surplus reality in the drama that never happened at the time. For example, it might be that the person is mute, or it might be that they were never able to express what they needed to say. And so they go into surplus reality and they express something that was never said at the time. So there is certainly interventions, psychodramatic interventions that assist us so that someone can warm up to a spontaneity state where they can be free to express themselves fully in the moment, which they couldn't do at that time. And at the end of, say, a drama where there is some sort of resolution or catharsis of abreaction, whether it's, look, I'm very angry with you, or I'm very upset, or usually sometimes someone who's very angry with someone else, when they get them there, what they do is they just start to cry, even though they imagined that they'd be very angry with them, but they just cry because they're incredibly hurt about what's happened. And so at the end of a drama, the director sits out the front with the protagonist, and then we ask the group to share back with the protagonist what the drama was like for them. Not to analyze the drama, but to say, look, when you talk to your mum, or when you talk to your boyfriend or whoever it was, I had a boyfriend who was like this, blah, 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 blah. So suddenly everybody in the group starts to do their work. And what it does is it helps integrate the protagonist back into the group again.
Yeah.
So that everybody shares about what the experience was like, in terms of this person's drama. And I mean, the surplus reality is you might have been very, very lonely or just very isolated as a kid, and in this drama you've got a whole lot of people with you. You some sort of and sometimes we talk about it. Look, let's get your psychodramatic father here, or your psychodramatic mother, the mother you never had, the mother that you always wished you had. So you get somebody out there and they're a mother who is a really good mother, and she's got a lot of abilities and she's really there, so that there's sort of what we call that is sort of social atom repair. There's a repair of the original system or the family of origin. So, and the great thing about that is that, like with dramas, you can go to the future or you can go to the past. So you might want to talk to yourself. You might want to talk to yourself on your deathbed. So suddenly we've got, wow, here I am here, and there I am on my deathbed. And what do you want to say to yourself right now? Well, sometimes people say, well, look, I want to go to hell. Okay, let's create hell. Let's create hell on the stage, or we get the gods out there. So they get the gods out. Usually the first god they get out is a fire, brimstone, nasty piece of work. Wow. And then eventually they get out a number of gods. So in the psychodramatic stage, when Marino built it, you could go up the stairs and go out there and play the gods. Oh. You could be the gods and speak to the people. So using drama of all types, it's just such a very, very interesting sort of method, and it means that the director of the drama plays a range of roles, not just an empathic listener, which I think is a very important role, but there's many, many roles that are required. So I'll give you an example. I remember you imagine this boy, and he's 16 and he's in his room, and he just spends a lot of time in his room, and then you reverse him into the role of the father, and the father's just come home from work, and he's just gone and played a round of golf. And you interview the father and you say, how come you're not chatting to your son? Oh, well, my son's very negative to me. And the director says to the father, well, so what? He's no different from any other 16-year-old in Victoria. They're all negative to their dad. And well, how come you don't just keep on being a dad with him? How come you don't keep on approaching him? Keep on approaching. Oh, well, he's not approaching me. Oh, yeah, but you're the adult, man. So sort of talking to the dad, getting connected with the dad, and clearly in that family system, the father's not involved with the family very much. He goes and plays golf. He works, and he goes and plays golf, but he's not involved. And the investigation is what's he like? What's he's like with his wife? How's he doing with his wife? And what about the other kids in the family? So suddenly you get to sort of get a sense of, well, what's going on in this family, and why is this kid so isolated? You see, so very, very quickly there's some sort of so the boy can then talk to his father, have a chat to his father, or the father can have a chat to him. So, I mean, the fact with that father is the father is incredibly self-engrossed, and he's got no ability to, at that moment, to reverse roles with his son. So that ability to take my eyes out and put them into your sockets, and you take yours out and put them into mine, and I see the world from your view, and then you see the world from my view. But the father's inability to reverse roles with his son, he was just thinking, oh, well, he's negative to me. So he's not taking any account that, hey, he's isolated. My son's isolated. He's in his room all the time. How come I'm not saying to him, come on, it's dinner time now. You've got to come and sit at the dinner table with the rest of the family. All right, says the adolescent boy. So suddenly And this capacity to role reverse is something built into the method, that someone's an audience member, then they have to go and play the role of another, and then they've got to come back and be themselves as an audience member. So they get practiced being able to role reverse, be in the other shoes, and then be in my shoes. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, 100%, Richard. And I love that idea of being able to take different perspectives, sometimes, as you describe it in this kind of a psychodramatic session, where you take on perspectives of different situations of different people's lives, and you get used to looking at things at different perspective.
Yes.
And play a role, I guess, another role that is, might not be your role or is related to you, but you still get to look at things in a more in a different light. But it also speaks to what you said earlier, to the spontaneity and developing this ability to be more spontaneous, be more exploring things again, which I think a lot of us lose through traumatic experience. Like, we lose that ability, and now is an opportunity to go out and be the person who can try things, who can has more confidence in maybe their own abilities, or seeing things in a perspective that is hopefully more empowering. And being as a group there then makes it also a communal experience, right? Which is, we talked about isolation earlier. So I want to talk to you now about this kind of communal experience and the role of community in psychodramatic context, but also in life. Like, I'm a huge believer, Richard, that we need to be around people who are supportive, that maybe people who have similar or related experiences through friends, and being in these contexts. How important is that to live a happy and more fulfilled life, and kind of move towards healing?
Well, I don't think you can do it on your own. I think the forces, the negative forces are too strong. So we do need to have a community of people that that we get on with, that that are part of our world, that helps us live our life. And so, you might have some very close friends, and then you have people who are not so close, and then others that are not so close. It's sort of like a bit of a scattergram. But we've got to get people in our lives to help us live our lives. So, for example, that idea of experimentation, that idea of really what we're doing is, with from a psychodramatic perspective, is dealing with the roadblocks to warming up to spontaneity. So if you warm up to the roles, you'll do the task well. So we're intervening to assist you to be able to warm up. So eventually you'll hopefully get to what Eric Berne calls as a conflict-free egosphere. And it means that there's no conflict in that sphere. And that's probably the world of the playground, the world of you having all your friends around and you have a party. The world of those people really get you and care about you. And so the interventions we're doing is not to think, oh, look, you've got a problem and we'll diagnose you, which is the way the world's going, and everyone's got problems, and pop a pill. Is to train people in spontaneity, train people in playfulness, which is what the method does. So as a group goes on, eventually, with the right interventions with the group, and as the group deals with all the different issues that will come up, that they'll start getting to like each other. They'll start getting connected with each other. And people, as there's more connection and building the sociometry of the group, or the connections with everybody in the group, people will then self-disclose more and more. And the groups, and as the sociometry builds, people tolerate difference. They tolerate someone who has a different opinion to them. But in other words, with the group can end up in a sort of a world where there's love. There's a possibility that actually you think this, I don't think that. I care about you anyway. But that's a lot of work to get to that point. So after maybe 15 hours or so of a group being together, or week after week after week, or an intensive weekend, the group gets to that point, and everybody's included. No one's left out. No one's left out because they're too tall or whatever the reason is, and everybody's included. So, but that idea of working out what is your social atom, who have you got in your life, and who else do you need? So, with a counsellor, not just thinking of a group, but the counsellor joins the client's social atom for a period, so that and they're in their social atom, and hopefully the person builds up companionship with a whole lot of other people. And so then there's a community. There's a community of people in which you can look. I don't feel so good today. Look, I might go and have a chat to Joe. Hi, Joe. What are you up to? Can I have a chat to you? So that sort of idea. But it is related to spontaneity and creativity theory, and not psychopathology. That's a big difference.
Yes, I love that, Richard. So we're not, the focus is not on so much on what happened, but the focus is more forward looking, and the now, and how do we feel. And I love how you said that no one is left out. That
No.
The idea is that you start to feel that in life you are included, you are part of something, and that part of something is what helps you to express yourself, helps you to feel connected, and helps you step into roles that you really want to be in, which is, I think, what you meant by when you were talking about progressive roles, right?
Well, progressive roles are the roles that are sort of part of us, which Marino would call them psychodramatic roles. So you have the social role system, like, say, living in Melbourne and the social roles, or if you're in Japan, the social roles are part of that system. But the psychodramatic roles are a little bit like what Jung called the archetypal roles.
Okay.
They're sort of like the foundation roles. Like, for example, fun-loving player of life, that role sometimes is just sort of foundation in a person, or a visionary, that you've got a vision. And because anyone who comes to counselling, they're all angry with themselves, and even on the stage, you quickly get them out there. Here they are, and then you get out them who's angry with themselves, and then they start expressing themselves to each other.
Wow.
And so that's been my experience with most people. So that critical judge, certainly as a role, has to be reduced, and that's a really easy thing for you to think, oh, look, I've got a judge here. Then it turns out, oh, who is that? So who is, get the judge out there. Who are you? And then eventually they say, oh, it's my dad.
Right.
So what's happened is it's the introjected role. So they got the introjected roles of everybody that's been in the original family system. So it's the introjected father or the introjected mother. And so what you're doing is you're working it out on the stage, or you're working it out with the counsellor, so that you can sort of warm up to a wider range of roles. And the principle would be that as the progressive roles develop, the dysfunctional roles will diminish, and there'll be the healing of that. So Anyway, I reckon that's got legs. I think that's just really a fantastic thing. And of course, the trouble with us is, people, when we start becoming adults, we stop being playful.
Yeah.
We're not playful, or we're not sort of everything's very, very serious, and of course, what happens with trauma is that when someone's been traumatized, it takes the young person out of that developmental sort of the developmental area that they're meant to develop in. And I remember this young woman I was dealing with, and we were doing a drama, and we got her parents out there, and we got them to start talking to each other, and there was huge conflict between them. And once we got that enacted, and as it was being acted, I got her to be her 15-year-old self. And what did she do? She put some headphones on and started listening to music, which is how she started allowing herself to be an adolescent again. That she did, as mum and dad started talking to each other, she could actually just be a kid and be an adolescent, be an obnoxious little adolescent who wants to stay in a room all the time. Yeah. And suddenly there's sort of social animal repair, that she stops being the parentified child in this system and can be an adolescent, and she can move forward and eventually become who she's meant to really become, herself, or as some literature calls, the authentic self.
And here we are, Richard, back at that authentic self and rediscovering your authentic self through this process of healing from trauma, where things like counseling and psychodrama can be so powerful. Richard, if someone wanted to find out more about working with you or about psychodrama, what would they do?
Oh, well, they could they could get in touch with me. They could make an inquiry, but there's the Australian and New Zealand Psychodrama Association, and that's quite interesting because you can get on and have a look at some of the videos there of different people who use the method, and you can listen to those folk. And there's quite a lot of videos of some of the people who have been founding people in doing psychodrama. But the other thing too is you could always look, if you're looking for someone and you've seen that they've done psychodrama in their training, well, that gives you a bit of a sense of that they know about this method. I mean, the method is very, very powerful, and we don't put the method into incompetent hands because it's so liberating, but it's also very powerful. It's a very powerful method, and changed my life really. Some of the the dramas I did, and I mean, but anyway, people can get in touch with me, and I can send them off to some other people that do that, do psychodrama, or they even in their one-to-one practice. I'm thinking psychodramatically all the time. I'm thinking role theory all the time. Sort of what are the roles? What's the personality structure of this role system, and how's it going to sort of how we're going to move forward so that they can eventually become their authentic self.
That's beautiful, Richard. Thank you for sharing your authentic self today, and thank you for what you do in the world, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Nice to talk to you.